this computer. All right, we're recording. Hello, it's Thursday night, my favorite night of the week. My husband's not home, so let's hope that the children obey and they stay in bed and nobody has night terrors, but it's going to be fine because it's always fine. You just roll with these things. So tonight we have two incredible, amazing guest speakers, teen speakers. I'm so excited to hear them share their hearts with you all because these two have just the biggest hearts for people and they love Jesus and want to share him in their journeys. And I think it's really incredible. So I'm very excited. I'm so happy to have you all on. Hello, Courtney. Look at that mama coming on here. I love it. I love seeing all your faces. So tonight we're going to talk about what heart and hustle looks like. But here's the thing. We've talked about like having heart and hustle. We really want to focus on the challenge groups and how we can do that. And this call came about because Amy and Katie were talking about their current challenge groups. And they were just sharing how, you know what, they finally had come to the point where they were realizing, okay, we need to require something of people. And it's not just that we want them to buy something. It's not just that, you know, we've got to meet these quotas, but it's we need them to commit for themselves. But how can we do that without just being focused on the bottom line? And how can we run a business? Because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with running a business. There's nothing wrong with that at all for building a business. But how can we keep the heart in it? And so we got chatting on Voxer and just going over these things. And I mean, it just kind of exploded. And I said, you girls need to share this on a call. And they both said, I said, tough luck, you're doing it. No, they were happy to share. So tonight they're going to go over the balance of working hard because we need to work hard in this business. I believe that. I think whatever God has called you to do, you got to work your tail off. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it has to be balanced on the other side with trusting God. And there's this beautiful balance we have to find. Because we can just say, oh, I trust God. Praise Jesus. I'm just going to let him have his business and we're going to see what happens. Like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Let's see if it sticks. Amen, sister. Well, I don't really think that's what the Bible teaches either. And I think that's how some of us run our businesses. I'm just going to be honest. It's like, well, no, I'm just trusting Jesus to get those Success Club points. Well, that's great. You keep trusting him. But it has to be a balance between work, our work and our efforts that God has called us to do, and trusting and saying, God, you have got this. So these ladies are going to share, and I have questions here, but I'm going to let them run with it unless they want me to start them off. So I will unmute Amy, and I'm going to unmute Katie, and then if they give me the thumbs up, I'm going to mute myself and let them roll. So are you ready, girls, or would you like me to ask questions? Oh, okay. All right. I'm so excited. Oh, I have to remember who I am. I'm Elizabeth tonight. I'm going to mute Elizabeth. Take it away.
All right. So I am going to start us off, and I'm going to just go ahead and confess to you guys what I was being honest with Danielle and Katie about like moments before we all got on here. And it's kind of ironic, but go figure that God is going to totally test me on what I say that I believe, that I'm seeking to trust him. But you know what? I had this beautiful plan for how I was going to be super organized and together for tonight and have all my little thoughts written out in bullet points so I wouldn't say something that I didn't want to say or not say something that I want to make sure that I say. And God had a different plan for today. So I'm truly getting to live out the trusting God portion of what we're going to talk about tonight. But Katie and I kind of picked like a little title for tonight's Vox, Zoom. See, there we go already. And we called it Connecting Your Heart to Your Hustle. And I think that regardless of what we're able to share tonight, if there's one thing that I would say that I want anybody that ever sees the Zoom to take away, that's what it would be. You need to figure out what your heart is, what God has put in your heart, what your mission is, what your vision is, and then you need to connect that to the hard work that you do. Because anything else is going to leave you so frustrated and so confused, and you're not going to be productive and you're not going to be efficient. and you're going to feel like you're living this disjointed life because you believe one thing and you're doing something completely different. And that's a lot of what brought this out in mine and Katie's journey, was we started seeing the disconnect between things that we said we believed and things that we were actually doing. So the first we kind of grouped these around questions. So I'm going to tell you the question because it helps me gather my thoughts. And I do not have the questions written down. So Katie, if I veer off, just like that is not the question. The first question is, how do you take your vision or your heart, your passion, and connect that to your practice? How do you make that bridge over? And so I want to start with what my vision is. And it may not be exactly the same as your vision, and that's okay. You can still walk through these steps like we have and apply it to what your vision is. But my vision is to help one woman at a time to be her best, to give her best, to do her best, all for God's glory. And that's not just going to be throwing a nutrition plan at somebody and throwing a workout plan at somebody and being like, okay, go fly, enjoy the rest of your life. It's going to involve not just body care, but soul care. And so my vision is for the person as a whole. And I think a lot of us have that burden and that passion to care for people in a whole sense and to really be pointing them to their ultimate hope, and that is Jesus. So that's my vision. And what a vision does is it leads you to a mission. You have something that you wake up with every morning, like, this is what I'm going to do with my day. This is what I'm focused on. This is what I'm headed towards. And then that gives you purpose, right? So those ones we're pretty familiar with. And all this started for me because I'm a brand new coach. And this is a lot of the trepidation for me in coming on and even sharing anything tonight. I'm like, I haven't even been doing this for 6 months. I don't really know that I have anything super amazingly worthwhile to share, but possibly I have a fresh take on something that maybe will just help somebody. So that's what I'm praying. But the vision, mission, purpose is something that all of us that have gone through training are familiar with. But where I started to see that there was a breakdown in my own life, not just in coaching, but in general, was where that then bridged over to my practice. And so that's where we tend to have the breakdown. So one of the things that I'm a little bit losing my own train of thought right now, before I get to practice, I wanted to flesh out a little bit of philosophy, because philosophy is why you do what you do. And that's something that it kind of fits in with vision, mission, and purpose, but it's also a little bit different because it's where you start to figure out what you're going to do and why you're going to do it before you actually get to the doing it. And so because our heart is to be caring for people in a whole sense, we have to scale back and we have to realize that we need that as well. We have to be caring for ourselves in a whole sense. And this is all stuff that we hear all the time. Whoa. And I apologize. My camera fell over. But here is what I would say is probably the best way to explain when Katie and I talk about connecting our heart to our hustle. I am so sorry. I is falling over. It was balanced and it doesn't want to stay balanced. Let's see if we can. All right. This is just to make it super exciting tonight. But here is what I would say, if I could summarize my heart, which is I would say it's an outflow of my mission. It's an outflow of my vision. And that's this. I want to be trusting God and hoping in Jesus, walking by faith and living in the freedom of grace as I follow the Spirit to guide me into the good works that he has me to do every day. So that those good works, I know why it's falling because I'm bumping the table with my hand as I talk. Haha, figure that out. Those good works are going to be me working hard. They're going to be me working my business. They're going to be me caring for the people in front of me. And you can flesh that out however. But I'm going to be faithful. I'm not going to give up when things are hard. I'm not going to give up when I don't see the results that I would like to see, because again, I'm going to go back to that trusting God, hoping in Jesus, living by faith, walking in the freedom of grace, and being led by the Spirit to do the good works that he has for me to do. And the way that this ties back to my vision is that I want to be helping other women to do that same thing. I want to help them to trust in God, to hope in Jesus, to walk in the Spirit. And so the cycle kind of continues that way for me. And that statement has been very helpful for me to just recalibrate myself when I am, oh my goodness, this is happening. And so now I need to do this. So let's break it down. Here's the real deal that I've realized about myself. What I really believe is going to be revealed in what I do. So I might say that I trust God, but when I am having a moment because my baby isn't sleeping and it's almost the Zoom call time, I'm showing that I'm not trusting God. I'm trusting in my well-calculated plan and my little list that I was going to make and that I didn't get to make. And that's hard. That's hard to admit, but that's really what is true. So what I want to encourage all of us to do is to really tell ourselves the truth. Look at what you're doing. Look at how you're responding, and let that show you what you really believe. And if you want to believe differently, you can. There's hope that we can all change. We can grow to trust God more and more and to lean on ourselves less and less as we do this business. Because here's the thing, and I said this recently, I think in our team page, I got on and did a little live video because I was just all fired up about it one day. Here's the reality. We don't have to get frantic. We don't have to freak out because we do have the Holy Spirit. We do have him to lead us and to guide us and to encourage us and to keep us going. And someone who does not know Jesus, they don't have that. So they are going to have that frantic moment and that I've got to work harder and I've got to stay up all night and I've got to do all these things. And it's not that doing those things are wrong, but if we're doing them because if we don't, things are going to fail, then that is wrong. Because we are liberated from that. We get to walk in the freedom of knowing that God is sovereign and that he's got this. And this struck me today. We should be the best coaches on the planet. If we say that we're followers of Jesus, we should be the best coaches out there because Jesus came to seek and save the lost. He came to serve. He did not come to see what he could get. And so if we're following in his footsteps, we should be the best servants there are. And that's what a coach is, someone who comes alongside and serves and lifts other people up. So that's really, this is the longest question, so don't anybody freak out that all of them are going to be this long. I'm going to give you an example that I think helps you understand, at least help me understand the balance between trusting God and working hard, because those two seem to be at polar opposites a lot in my mind. Like I can really struggle with exactly what Danielle kind of started the call off with. How do I like trust God and work hard at the same time? Because they just, it's hard to balance that. So today I thought about Noah. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the story of Noah. So just a brief synopsis. He was the guy in the Bible who had to build the ark. And there was no water anywhere around, and they had probably never seen boats. And he did not know why he was building an ark. But God told him to build an ark, and God told him to tell the people around him that God was going to judge the world. And for like 200 plus years, he worked to build this ark. And he told people that did not believe him, that ridiculed him, that never, ever converted. They never, ever said, oh, yes, we're going to agree with you. We're going to be, on your side. We want to follow God too. None of them ever did. But he stayed faithful, and he was working really, really hard. This is like way before there was any sorts of technology to help them build this huge boat. So that is, to me, Noah is a beautiful example of working hard and trusting God, because trusting God is what makes you work hard, because you believe what God has said. And so if we believe, here's an application of that. If we believe that God has said that our bodies are his, then we're going to work hard to take care of them. If we believe that his word is our source of life, then we're going to spend time in it. And you can just take every little thing in your life and you can apply it that way. And I'm not going to spend our time talking about that right now, but think about this aspect of Noah too. At some point, God said, get in the ark. And then God closed the door. And then Noah did not have the opportunity anymore to share with those people. And sometimes in this business and in life, what we think we're supposed to be doing, God closes the door to. And he gives us something else to do. He puts something else in front of us. And what do? You keep trusting God, just like you were when you were working hard building the boat and telling the people that God's judgment is coming. Like, nothing has to change just because what you're doing with your time changes. And I say that to say this. Katie and I have just come off of a crazy month of life circumstances that made it hard to know what we were supposed to be doing with our time. But when we could commit ourselves to God and trust him and say, okay, God, what are you putting before me to do today? It brought focus and it brought peace. And I really do believe that God wants us to do this business and to live our lives from a place of rest, not from a place of frantic hurry and scurry and trying so hard to make something work. So I want to apply this really fast. I feel like I'm taking forever, but Katie and I talked about this earlier. This is the longest and the hardest question. How has this whole concept affected the way that we run our challenge groups? Because when it boils down to it, that's like the bulk of your business. That's the bulk of what you do. It's caring for these challengers. Not that there aren't other things going on, but that's the heart of it, I would say. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, there is purposeful planning. Hard work is going to mean that there's intentionality. There's something purposeful and thought out. We're not just randomly throwing a group together and we have not thought it through. And in that purposeful planning, because we want to care for their souls, we're being purposeful about how we can do that. We're not just, and I don't know that this is necessarily wrong, but for me and Katie, we wanted to be purposeful. And so we've chosen a book to use to help guide what our discussions are about as far as soul care goes. We've recommended a Bible study that ladies could be following along with. And those are just resources and tools that we found useful in our own journey with God, that we're now saying, hey, just like we're recommending to you these tools that we found helpful in our fitness, these tools we found helpful in our faith. We're not forcing anyone to do it, but we're modeling it as we go through the group by posting soul care posts and by recommending these resources that we found helpful. Another huge thing that I've seen us do often is pray. Not just praying together and not just praying about what to do, but we have had times, right, Katie, in the past, I think this is the second time actually that this has happened with us, where normally we have like a list that we're working from and we have that list, and then it comes down to right at the time when we would normally be working from that list and there's like a life circumstance. For me last month, we were being displaced because of Hurricane Irma. And I had a list of like 50 people that I was planning to invite, and I just did not have the time to message them and do it in a loving way. I mean, I could have spammed people, but that's not how I want to do it. So, you know what we did? Katie and I had this conversation and we're like, we're just going to pray. We're going to pray for God to show us who we should invite, because we have time to invite some people, but we don't have time to invite everyone that we have on our list. And we prayed and we invited, and then we trusted God. And I don't want to give so many examples that I take up the whole Zoom call, but it's been really cool to see how God has blessed that. And he's brought us people who have actually purchased challenge packs. And I mentioned to Katie the other day, I said, you know, what if we had like the 2 or 3 hours that it would have taken to message 50 people? And God already knew who he was going to bring to us. And we could have saved ourselves those 2 or 3 hours. Not that it's wrong to spend 2 or 3 hours. And sometimes God has us to just work hard and to just get the results that way. But sometimes he closes the door, and that's a time to just go to him and say, Lord, you show me who to reach out to, because I can't reach out to everybody. Hope that somebody comes back. I would say 2 more things that have been really key to the way that we have taken our vision and connected it to our hustle. And that is that we have decided to be in partnership. And what I mean by that is that we are not seeking to run a challenge group all on our own. Because when this is your vision and this is your passion, you can lose focus so quickly. And you can so quickly start to focus on something that's really not the goal that you're headed towards. And so for me and Katie, it's been really vital to be able to reach out to one another and to be able to say, hey, I'm really struggling. please pray for me. Or I'm dealing with this situation. What do you think? Or how should I respond to this? Or what do you think our posts next week should be? This is what we're seeing in the group. And it's just been amazing to have that camaraderie and to have that community and partnership and accountability in the group. And I think that it's a way for us to like lighten our load too. So that's been wonderful. One other huge key thing is pursuing commitment in our challengers. We have to call them to commitment. And here's where it comes to talking about asking them to buy something. And that's really hard when you're saying that your vision and your purpose is to serve and to care and to love and to help people grow to love Jesus more. And then you're saying, and so now you need to spend money on this fitness program. And it almost can feel like it doesn't connect. And if you do it like I just said it definitely does not. But here's where I believe that it does connect. If we believe that Jesus is our hope, first of all, we're not going to just do it in a random way, because we don't want to point them to a fitness program and a nutrition plan and say that's your hope, because Jesus is our hope. But at the same time, if Jesus is our hope, then we are going to be stewarding our bodies to be fit to serve them, because he's worthy of that, and because he's a hope that does not put to shame. So as we pursue him and as we pursue serving him better, we're going to have fulfillment in that. So when we can bridge it that way, then we can say to them, here's why we highly recommend these tools, and we're going to call you to be committed. And I think I'm going to ask Katie to share, because I didn't write this down, and I'm kind of flinging this on you, but he's getting really fussy, and I'm afraid that's distracting. I want to ask you to share like the 3 commitments that we have our challengers make at the beginning of a challenge group, and then maybe you can just go right into the second question of how you dialogue with them.
Sure. Yes, I can totally do that. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie. And so thank you, Amy, so much for sharing. That was amazing. I actually feel like we could just wrap it up. Like, I think you did fabulous. But I won't do that to you. You did put me on the spot, and I have a terrible memory. So Amy is like great with just going off the cuff. I have like, I don't know, 6 pages of notes here, because me and words just don't always get along. I can say a lot of them, but they don't always make a whole heap of sense. But the 3 things Amy was referring to that we have, and this is kind of a new thing for me, required. We say we required our expectations of our challengers for our group for this past Choosing Change group was, number 1, they have to commit to a Beachbody program. So they don't necessarily have to buy it. It could be something that they've had on the shelf or they borrow from a friend, but they have to use one of our programs. Number 2, they have to commit to checking into our challenge group every single day. Now, in the Challenge Tracker app, it's super easy, or even Facebook groups, it's super easy to just add your workout, log your Shakeology, and those are participations, but we post every day. So we're really asking them to comment on or like the posts that we share every day as a part of participating every single day. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is, and this is my number 3. I'm not sure, Amy, if yours was the same, but I actually asked all of my challengers to send me a before, either a picture, maybe their measurements, maybe their weight, maybe all of those things. They could just pick one. And I felt like that really helped them to take that step of commitment. Oftentimes in my previous groups, I've like said that I want them to do that, but I didn't actually require them to do it. And so my word was like nothing, right? It didn't mean anything because I didn't actually require it, what I was saying I was. And so what I found was that did make a significant difference. And actually before, in the past I would rush into things, and I'll touch on this a little bit later. In the past, I would be like so excited about getting them plugged into a group that I would just like say, hey, you need to do these few things. But then I'd throw them in the group before I actually had them to do those things. And it was like setting them up for failure. Where this way we asked these 3 things of them. And then before we would even add them into the group, even despite hurricanes and displacement, we did not add them into the group until we got their responses and we got their commitments. And I know it has been a game changer for my challengers in the group. And I know that Amy has said the same thing. So that's those are those 3 things that Amy was touching on. And it kind of leads in really well to our second question. The second question that we came up with, how does your vision, the vision that we just talked about, your mission and your vision, give purpose and direction? and the dialogue in your conversations that you're having with potential challengers. So that's kind of wordy. Well, it's not, but like to kind of break that down a little bit. So how do we be purposeful, and how do we use this vision and this mission that we have to start dialogue? And I originally thought I was going to share like literal dialogue, like if I say this then you say this, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought like you can find trainings that give dialogue examples, and if you would like some suggestions to that, like definitely let me know, and I can even send you a couple videos that I've watched. But I know like our trainings cover a lot of that. Allie does amazing with giving examples of dialogue, so I'm not going to really touch so much on that. I'm going to go more towards our mission and our vision that Amy and I are sharing, and kind of our purpose and us being purposeful. So here's the thing. I first of all want to say I just totally agree 110% with everything Amy said. Like when she says my mission, my vision, it's like we're soul sisters. Like we speak the same language. And it's funny. I even was like, I think we're twins somehow secretly. We're not. Our birthdays are not on the same day, but she gets me. And so that's been really cool. Like a gift from God for sure in this phase of the journey. Because as Amy shared, she's 6 months in, or not quite 6 months. I've been doing this for 3 years. So I've been here for a while. But it hasn't been until, and I've had different phases of my journey, but it hasn't been until just recently that so many light bulbs have gone on. And a lot of it has been from things that Amy and I have shared. So here we go. So how does your vision connect with your conversation that you have with people? And here's the thing, really trusting God with our business. And I'm kind of going to read some of this. Trusting God with our business means that we believe that Jesus is our ultimate hope, ours and our challengers, and we want to point them to him. And Amy already touched on this a little bit, so I don't feel like I need to go into super detail. So, but here's the thing. So yes, we want to serve them, we want to love, and we want to care for them well, but we're not doing it for the sale. We're not doing it for ourselves to further our business, and we're really not even doing it for them. And I believe, and this is kind of how like Danielle has taught me as well and inspired me. So, but here's the thing, if we're not doing it for the sale, and we're not doing it for ourselves, and we're not even really doing it for them, we need to connect it that ultimately we're doing this as unto the Lord. And we believe that the things that Amy has shared, like in her little talk previous, about God and about his leading, that it's Jesus, not us, that's the hope for them. And so that's what will give them like true and lasting change. So yes, he uses us, even we are one of his tools, just like our fitness programs, Shakeology, are tools to help them with their physical journey. Like, yeah, we're part of the tools that God uses, but ultimately we have to remember, and I have to remind myself that I am not their rescuer. And it gives so much freedom. Of course, it's not negate the responsibility, obviously, and the hard work that Amy was referring to, and that I also believe that we need to have. But it relieves the pressure a little bit that I am not their savior. Like, I am not the one that saves them. And so this belief has given us more direction and motivation. And here's where like the rubber meets the road as far as this goes in conversation with challengers. So it's given us more direction and motivation to draw the line and not offer unending amounts of value when they're not committed back. So if they want to do this, if they really truly want to change, they're going to have to commit to the tools that we know that work. They're going to have to be willing to commit to us, because we're doing this for a bigger purpose. We have made the changes to steward our bodies well for the glory of God. And I'm thinking like, Romans chapter 12, like God commands us, like our bodies are his temple. And so it's a commandment to steward our bodies well. And so that's the point that we came to get to where we are. So if they want to come alongside of us, then I'm definitely going to share this with them. I'm not going to leave that part of the puzzle out. I'm not going to leave that piece out, because it's pivotal. It's super important for the way that we run our challenge groups, really. And so I'm trying to think. So, and then the other thing is that's what has helped me like stay consistently showing up. So I'm here 3 years later. Like, I would not be here if I was doing this just for me. I would not even be here if I was doing this just for my family. or for my friends or for whatever I am, or for a business. Like I am still here doing this because I desire to honor God with my body. And so I wanted to share a little bit. I'm trying to think. I wanted to share a little bit of a story with you guys, like to kind of put this into a practical, how this is played out. And so, but before I say that, I want to add one thing. So my confidence comes from, and here's where, like Amy and I just, I don't know, there was just something, honestly, all I can say is it was God. Like it was a God thing. And her partnership with me, like her help has helped give me the confidence that I've needed to like do these things that I've kind of always felt like my business should be run this way. I've always had this like pricking in my heart, but I've never really been able to apply it or figure out even how to. And so, because here's the thing, like I so easily, and I'm still, I know I'm going to future struggle with this because it's not something that I've totally solved or fixed. But I so easily fall back into wanting to give myself for free because I have such a heart to serve and to help people. And I have seen how this has made such a difference in my life that I want to just give it to them for free. But what I'm realizing that doesn't work. If they're not committed, it doesn't help them. And in fact, it actually hurts them because I had to come to the place in my life personally where I gave up the excuses, where I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I pushed through the excuses. But I find myself making excuses for other people because I know how they feel. And so I think, oh, well, they just can't afford it, or, oh, they just don't have the time, or, oh, I'll just leave them in the group for a little bit longer, or I'll just let them come into this next group for free as well, because maybe this one will be the one that makes a difference. And while I'm not saying you never do that, I'm saying it's so important to be spirit-led. And so here is where, and back to like what I was saying before, because if I tell people, hey, you can be in, but here's what you have to do, and I don't hold them to those expectations, my word means nothing to them. So not only am I allowing them to make excuses for themselves, I'm not trustworthy because I'm not holding myself to I'm not holding them to the standard that I've said I would. And that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help them. So here's my little story. And this is how I'm going to kind of wrap up number 2. I haven't, let's see, I went months, I don't even know how many, the last time before September that I had sold a challenge pack. I had like some reoccurring orders, and I'd have an order here and there, but like I wasn't making any sales, and I was just running and fighting and pushing and just doing everything I thought I possibly could, and messaging all these people and reaching out to all these people, and it was like crickets, nothing. And when Amy and I connected this before this last challenge group, I remember being at the point where I was like, well, the other thing was our summers are busy, so I kind of feel like I have to add this in. So we work at a summer camp, and so during the summer, the 2 months of like July and August, my activity online was cut way back because I used that time instead to be actively involved in actual people's lives. And so I felt like coming into September, I had lost all my momentum and I was discouraged. But then I met Amy, and we started talking about this whole concept of being spirit-led and really believing that. So not just saying it, but actually believing it. And so I took that month to trust God and say, you know what, like, I'm giving it to you. Like, I'm going to hustle, but the results are in your hands. And the crazy thing, long story short, that happened was, like, after not making a sale for months, 3, maybe 4 months, I sold 3 challenge packs in September. And I was like, say, what? That's crazy. And you know why it was? Because I gave it to God. And I didn't just say I was giving it to him. I actually did. And I actually believed what I said I was going to do and what I said I believed. And I acted that way. And yeah, that meant that I had to require things of people. Like that meant that I had to challenge them a little bit. But now I'm seeing the results of that. And it's like, it's crazy. You know what's crazy? So let's say I have 10 people in this challenge group that we're running. The 4 who are doing the absolute best are the 3 who purchased challenge packs. And the one that, this is a whole nother conversation, but that I really felt led by the Spirit to include in our group, even though she didn't purchase anything, which that's crazy. But I was still following those 3 things that I committed her to, because I gave her my 21-day fix. So like she still was doing the Beachbody program. And she still sent me her before pictures, and she committed to the group. And so I let her in, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know, am I going against?" But I felt like the Spirit was saying, "Do this," and she's the one that's had the best results. So again, it's not this cookie cutter thing. It's not this thing where it's going to be the same every time. It's like really, truly being in tune to what the Spirit is saying for you to do, and believing that His plan is better than my plan, and that playing out in your conversation with people. So I hope that was encouraging. That's kind of all I have for number 2. And I do think I have what number 3 is, but Amy, it looks like your little guy is settles a little bit. So if you, yeah, that helps. That always helps, right? So if you want to take, do you want me to read number 3, or are you good?
I don't know that I have it like beautifully formatted.
It's fine.
Let me just say this first. Well, I can say this as part of the answer. So number 3 is, okay, so you're dialoguing with people, and what do we most often face? We get people that are like, oh my goodness, we totally want to do this. I don't, that's total distraction to me. I don't know what you wrote, Amber. I'll try to see it later. If I need to respond to it, just at the end, maybe you can unmute and ask. Sorry. But the question for number 3 is, what do we face? We often face people going, oh, that's so expensive. I can't spend that money. I don't have that money. We get people balking at the cost, and all of us have faced this. And I like that you just included that there are exceptions as your Spirit led. But I'm going to talk about all those that are not exceptions in the answer to this question. So let's just bear in mind that there may be a time where, if you are walking by the Spirit, you are led to include someone in your group that is not buying anything. They're not purchasing anything. And thankfully Danielle was Spirit led, because otherwise I would have never been here. So there is opportunity for that. But here's what I want to say. I think this kind of segues from your question, Katie. I was thinking this, and I jotted it down while you were talking. More than likely, if someone is not able to commit to using the tools, they're not committed in other ways in their life too. Like, it's not just that there's a lack of commitment to Beachbody. There's probably a lack of commitment in other areas. Like, that they just have a commitment problem, which is a spiritual problem. That is a soul issue. And so you then have an opportunity to keep loving that person and caring for their soul and drawing them to a place. But this, I want to tell you what I have to do with myself. When someone first goes, oh my goodness, I can't spend that money, or I don't have that money, or that's too expensive, or how much does it cost? Because I can't spend any money. I can only do something for free. All the excuses. First of all, what I have to do is I have to take a minute and establish myself as completely confident in my belief that what I'm offering them is absolutely as valuable and probably much more than what it costs. Because if I go in feeling threatened, then I will come back attacking them instead of caring for them and helping them to see the value. So when I am established in remembering that this is valuable, and I believe in this because I've seen it work. I believe in caring for my soul. I believe in fighting. And for me, a lot of fitness for me is fighting against depression and fighting against stressed out responses. Sorry. So funny. And now Katie is ginormous, and I can't see you. To see that he was so looking forward to it. That's what I told you yesterday. I was like, you're not gonna have Brady doesn't even come out before. That's how you do it. I'll tell you guys to come out and throw. But him and my career, I would come out and throw. You want to talk to these guys before the game? You want to be like,
Amy, you're muted for some reason. There we go. I couldn't unmute her.
Okay. I have to get myself to a place of remembering and calming down and not feeling threatened before I even respond to them. And then I can respond to them in a way that keeps the dialogue with that person open. And for me, it's very easy to segue into my own story because I was not part of a challenge group as a paid client my first round. I wasn't. And I don't always necessarily go there, but where I do go is that, you know what? I didn't have the money for this when I first wanted to start too. I totally understand where you're coming from. And you know what I did? I prayed. I prayed and I saved and I asked God to provide for it because what do I believe? This is again, belief with practice. I believe that God provides for his will. And so I have several people even right now that I have open dialogue with that it's not their time yet, but we are together praying for God to provide for them. And then I have two people in the group that Kitty and I are running right now who initially, they said they did not have the money. And because the dialogue stayed open with them, one of them for 4 months and another one for about 4 weeks before they came to a point of saying, you know what, I think I do want to spend that money. I have found a way to find that money. And the reason that you want to call people back to that commitment is because we're wanting to help them learn to be committed to stewarding their bodies and stewarding their life for God. And so it's not just about a sale. Now, granted, we're recommending Beachbody tools to them because that's what we use and that's what works for us, and we're Beachbody coaches. But again, I really do believe that commitment kind of transpires into all areas of life. And if you don't call them to that financial commitment, they're going to probably not be committed to caring for their souls, and they're not going to be committed to a meal plan, and they're not going to be committed to a workout. And it's rare, I would say, that you find that person. And again, the Spirit can lead you, and there are ways to draw that out. And that's another conversation. If you guys have questions about that, Katie and I have had a lot of those conversations too. How do you discern commitment in someone that you want to add in that's not going to be a paid customer? But we're not going to address that tonight. So I think we're to question 4, friend. Perfect timing.
Ooh, yay. All right, so I'm back on.
I am going to mute myself now if I can.
Okay.
Or can, I don't know how.
Somehow you did.
But I'm not now.
I don't know. But I'll go ahead. So, there you go. Perfect. So, here's where this comes up with our last and final question. And that is, what do you do with those who fall off? Like, what do you do with your challengers who have been, whether it's in one group or 2 or whatever, and then you just all of a sudden you don't hear from them anymore? And here's the short answer. You love them well. And I learned this from Danielle Doan. You love them. You just keep loving people all the time. And you know what? It doesn't actually matter. Like, it doesn't matter if this is the first time that they're joining your challenge group or if it's the 101st time. You treat them the same. You treat them with love, and you be this little motto that I come up with, and it's actually in one of those little frames up on my wall. And it's something that I remind myself of, on a regular basis. You be the person that they know, love, and trust when someone says they're ready. And they might be ready, and then they might not be ready, and then the next week they might be ready again. And you just show grace and love. And the thing that's kind of cool about it is you're going to keep loving them, and you're going to keep pouring into them, and you're going to keep forming them. Even if they're not necessarily in your group, you keep in touch with these people because you never know. I've been doing this. Danielle can attest to this. I know she can. But even in the 3 years I've been doing this, you never know who's going to come back, who maybe this wasn't their time, but that doesn't mean their time won't be down the road, and you can be used again. And so because our purpose here isn't for us, and it isn't for our glory, it isn't for our sale, it's for God's glory and for his purposes, then we keep loving them well. So why? Because it's about helping. I'm going back to my notes. Because it's about helping others, and it's about serving others. It's about the hope of Jesus, the strength of Jesus, and the power of Jesus. It's because my whole life, all of it, is for Jesus. So it doesn't matter if we have a rough week or a month, business-wise. I trust and I believe. So I keep pressing on for his purposes and for his glory. And so it makes loving those people well a given. Like it just makes sense. Like what do we do with people who fall off? We just keep loving them. We keep loving them well. Now here's the thing I wanted to touch on as part of that. Sometimes loving someone well means tough love. And this is something I have not perfected. I have a long ways to go. Because I'm not the most gracious person naturally, and I am a doer, and I'm a fixer, and I'm a list girl. And so I just feel like if you just know what's right to do, you should just do right. And that's just how it should be. But I don't always do things right, and that's not very relatable to people because we all fail, we all have struggles, we all have setbacks. And so part of loving people well, and while this might sound backwards and maybe not everybody's going to agree with this, and again, this is something I'm just kind of trying out, but so far I've had success with it. Part of loving people well may actually be deciding that for them that a group isn't best for them right now. And that's hard. It's so hard. It's especially hard for me because I think that challenge groups are for everybody. I just think they're amazing and they're for everybody. But if you have someone in there who's not participating, they drag the other people in the group down. And that's what happened for me in July and August. I got my group up to like 70 people. I was like, whoa, I've got 70 challengers. Like, this is amazing. I'm like the new Danielle Doan. Just kidding. I'm seeing it. She heard me. But I was excited. I was like, this is a huge group. But here's what happened. It was kind of sad. I might have had 70 people in there, but there were only about 7 people actually participating by the end of the group. And guess what happened? This is what I believe happened. We started with lots of momentum, but as people started dropping off, when somebody so it's contagious. And so lifting people up, each other up can be contagious, but dragging each other down can be contagious as well. And so as these people started noticing that other people weren't logging their workouts, then they stopped logging their workouts. And so pretty soon there's a ton of people that just weren't doing anything, and there was only a few people that were doing something. And that got very discouraging for me as well. And so I had to learn the hard way that offering things to people for free when they're not committed is not beneficial. It's not beneficial to them because they're not committed, and it's not beneficial to me because it stresses me out because I'm trying to want it for them, and we can't do that. And so I want to say this carefully because I'm not saying then if you don't hear from somebody for a day or 2 or 3, you just kick them out of your group and you never talk to them again. Like, no, please don't do that. Like, hear me out. But you reach out to them and you start with a question like, hey, I noticed, I've missed your post in the group. I would love to hear from you. How are things going? Like, did something come up that I can pray for you about? So you're still loving them. You're still loving them well, but you're asking like, hey, what's going on? And you reach out, and sometimes, and Amy and I have had this conversation because I've been like, I don't know what to do with this person. I haven't heard from them. They haven't posted my group. And so then you try again from a different angle. Like maybe you post on their actual wall, or you comment on a picture and see if they respond, or maybe send them a text message. But the point is that eventually you get to the point, and I've had to have this conversation with some of my people in our group, even for the September group. You get to the point in your conversation where you say, hey girl, here's the thing. Like, I totally understand if right now is not a good time for a group for you. Like, but I need to keep, and I didn't write this stuff down, so I might not say this all the great way. But the gist of it is, I need to keep my word to you. Like we had an agreement, and I'm committed to this group, and we have expectations of this group. And Amy gave me this analogy. It's kind of like being on a team, right? If you're on a soccer team and you just don't show up for practice for 3 days in a row, what are they going to do? They're going to kick you off the team. So you don't necessarily say that to the person, but that kind of gives you the confidence to love them well, but to say, I totally understand if this is not a good time for you, or if something has come up, it is totally fine. But I feel like it might be best if you just take a break, and you are welcome to come back. You're welcome to jump into my group next month. I'm running groups like this every month. But I think it would be best for you, and I think it would be best for the people in our group if you just step out for whatever. And that's so hard. Oh, it's so easy to say to you guys, but it's so hard to say to somebody actually. But you know what the key is? The key is going back to loving them well. And so again, you don't just have this conversation and then never talk to them again. You follow it up. You follow it up 3 days later with a comment on something they post on Facebook. Or a little message to them. So, hey, I saw this and it made me think of you. And so that's how you love them well. You have a follow-up to that hard conversation that you had to have. So I wanted to include that because, like I said, I haven't had that mastered, but I have found that that's successful. I had some hard conversations with people even today. And you know what they said? They said, you know what? You're right. This isn't a good time for me right now. And I think it is best if I bow out. And that's okay. And it was great. And we're still friends. At least I hope we are. And you know what? I'll message them in 2 days and I'll still love on them well. And so that was that. So as we kind of wrap up, I wanted to go back to how do you love on people? Like, what was the question? What do you do with the people who fall off? You love on them well. And how do you love on them well? You actually live like you believe what you're saying that you believe. And it's all encompassing. I don't separate my coaching life from my physical life, it's the same for my business as it is for my fitness journey, as it is for my family, as it is for my relationship with my husband and with parenting my children and with my friendships. The hope of Jesus is the hope for all of these things, whether it's my business, my challenge group, my relationships. And so the strength of Jesus, the power of Jesus gives me the ability to love people well, because it's my whole life. And because all of it is ultimately for him and for his glory. So it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter if we have a rough day, like we're pushing through this because my purpose is for his glory. So I'll never quit. Like, here's my wrap up. I'll never quit because I believe. I'm not just saying these things anymore, but because of Amy, because she has helped me, because she's encouraged me, because of her support, and because of Jesus using her to like preach truth and to speak truth into my life. I'm not just saying these things anymore. Like, our partnership has challenged me. I believe we've challenged each other, that I'm making the shift. Like, I'm shifting from it being all about my heart, all about my hustle, like hustle for me to do this, for me to fix it, for me to figure this all out. I'm making the shift from that to combining my hustle with my heart. So to be the person that they know, love, and trust when someone says they're ready, and to believe that, I wrote this down, can you tell I'm reading it? And to believe that the Spirit will lead and guide my business just like he does my life. Just like he has my life. And that's it. That's all I got. Like, again, haven't perfected it. It's going to be a struggle. I know I'm going to have those people like next month that I want to just give everything away to for free. But I'm going to hold to my guns because I believe this. I believe this vision and this purpose and this mission, and I have seen that has worked. And so just like I believe that the Spirit, and so I believe that the Spirit will lead and guide my business just like he does my life. And so Danielle is gone.
So I have something to add.
Okay, good. Perfect.
I just want to say this. Here is the joy and the freedom that comes from really living out of a place of believing that this is what God has called us to, and that ultimately he's the one who's leading us in our work. And that is this: we don't have to feel pressure to save anybody, to meet any certain quota or volume or anything like that. And I'm not saying that those aren't great indicators of work that's been well done, and I'm thankful for those. Sorry guys, I can't see through my bangs. But I think that when we limit ourselves to look only to Success Club points or to volume or to how many challengers we have or how many challenge packs we sold or whatever it might be, we are living on a lesser realm than those who are following Jesus are called to live on, because we get to live for an eternal kingdom. We get to lay up treasure in heaven that will never, ever fade away. And those Success Club points are gone the next month. I mean, it's October and mine's back to zero.
Yes, they are.
Okay? But if we are laying up treasure in heaven as we invest in people's souls and as we love people well and as we work hard as unto the Lord, that's never taken away. And that is the motivation that I want to get up and work hard tomorrow with, because that's not going to change. I may not feel like doing my workout tomorrow morning. I may not feel like reaching out to somebody who's fallen off, which I need to do. You know, there are aspects of life that I'm not going to feel like doing. But if I'm doing it as unto the Lord because he's worthy and because I truly believe that this has lasting eternal value, then I can keep going. And so that's kind of how I want to just wrap this up tonight. Like, let's be a team. If we're saying that we're followers of Jesus, let's be a team that does this different. We're different, not because we have necessarily the greatest sales or the most challengers, but because we have a belief in our core that we get to lay up treasure in heaven, and that we get to do this as unto the Lord, and that he is the one empowering us and enabling us so we can do it from a place of joy and of hope and of peace. And we have that to offer the people that we're caring for. So you caught the tail end there, Danielle, but we are done. And you have joy and peace to offer your night-terror child.
Oh.
Bless his heart. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. I have a whole stack of notes. Oh, I'm so thankful for you all. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want to add? It's pretty late, so I should probably let you all run. All right. Well, thank you all. That was wonderful. This is really good. My soul needed that, and it needs it every day. And that's the thing, I think, too. I think we have to just keep realigning ourselves with our purpose and our vision and why we're doing this. And I think that it's easy to get off track, and we will again, but we just have to keep coming back. And it's like that with anything. It's like that with our fitness journey. It's like that with our walk with the Lord. It just is. It's life. So just keep trying to find that path that you know God has for you. So, all right, ladies, I love you all very much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I always love having meetings with you. Thank you so much, Katie and Amy. That was very, very, very good. So, good night, guys. Mwah.
Good night.